What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 67 of Clips and Dip, a borderline playoff edition of Clips and Dip. We're not doing a live today. I'm Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Osland and Will Updike, as always. Hope you fellas are doing well. We're pretty much just going to be talking Clips versus Mavs because it's set in stone. We want to thank everyone who's listening. We want to thank everyone who's watching us on YouTube. Reviews help either way, either through a comment on YouTube or a comment on Apple Pods. Will, Adam, how are you fellas feeling now that we're locked into yet another Clippers Mavs first round matchup? Adam, you have an expressive face as I describe that. How are you feeling about this?
More expressive than usual. No, I'm getting ready for it. I was in kind of the minority of Clippers fans who would have rather seen the Pelicans, definitely the Phoenix Suns, not just because of the last two games,
Sure. Yeah.
but it's the Mavericks. That's who you got to deal with. And if you get through them, it looks like it's going to be the Denver Nuggets in the second round now. Minnesota couldn't get that victory last night, so not going to be easy, but Clippers just got to get it done.
Will, how are you feeling? We got a week or plus to really wade into this.
I mean, of potential playoff matchups, this one is, we know how difficult this matchup is going to be. I still like, and I was talking about this with Adam a little bit last night on the Double Dip, I still like the Clippers, the way they match up against guard-heavy teams. I think that presents an interesting challenge for those teams. And I think, too, look, this one's going to be super difficult. There's no way about it. But looking at a possession game, if defensively on the floor you have to have Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic at all times against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, I mean, theoretically, I like the way that shakes out in a close game when you have to grind out, hard shots every time down the floor. But it's not a cakewalk. Nobody was, though. Maybe if you get hurt Pelicans or something, but is that the way you really want to start the playoffs? I don't know. You know what I mean? I guess it'd be nice to get out of the first round, but you want to dust the team that's not at 100% health and then hope that you're ready to take on the Nuggets in the next round. Iron sharpens iron.
I
man.
would. I would.
Iron sharpens iron.
Look,
That's
I think the reason they started off slow against Utah down 0-2 in 2021 is because they went 7 games with the Mavs in the first round. So I don't know. I would sign up for a lesser opponent in the first round, but that's not what it's going to be. And it's going to be very entertaining basketball. So we got that coming.
That is going to be great.
Take the regular season a little more seriously if you want an easier opponent in that first round.
You mean, is that a message for Phoenix or somebody else that could have been?
Real quick.
It's a message for the team that we talk about 3 times a week.
They look bad. Phoenix looks horrible. I wanted to get that out of the way off top. We're not going to talk a bunch about what happened, but does that not look like a team that likes playing for their coach or is going to go anywhere in the playoffs right now?
They look ready to implode. It looks that bad for the Phoenix Suns right now. 1, 2, 3 Cancun type of stuff. Now, it could turn around very quickly. They still have the high-end star power, and it showed up late against the Clippers last night at Crypto, but something doesn't smell right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, if they're looking at the Thunder in the first round, it's who knows? Who knows?
Very true.
A much less experienced team. Who knows?
Do we? Okay, so it's Clippers Mavs. The seeding isn't totally locked in here, but looking at the last 2 games, right? Clippers have Jazz tomorrow with no Kawhi Leonard. The Rockets on Sunday. Mavs play the Pistons tomorrow, and then the Thunder on Sunday, who could be resting people. Where are you at? Clippers are staying at 4?
Yeah, they just need to win one more, and it's all but locked up, right?
Yeah, magic number is 1. If they win one or if Dallas loses one, they're 4. They're going to be 4.
So they're 4 for the most part. Unless, tomorrow's, who knows who the Jazz are playing tomorrow because they're resting everybody of any meaningful ability in terms of winning basketball games is resting tonight for them. So who
The
knows?
Jazz do not want to win.
They do not. They might try and petition to start 4 guys tomorrow.
Colin Sexton back in his familiar position.
This is going to be a fun series legacy-wise, just for both sides. Clippers being 3-0 versus a team as good as Luka, as against a player as good as Luka would be fun. And then I saw a story on Twitter because Luka hates the Clippers. He's lost to them more times than any other team he's played. He's lost to them 19 times. Someone had a story on Twitter I saw where they were at Eurobasket and they just brought a jersey to get autographs from people, and it happened to be a Clippers jersey, and Luka would not sign it, which is very funny. And I respect that. I respect deep hatred, deep competitive hatred. I am very pro. So you're right. This is going to be some high-level hoops, and I'm excited for the pettiness.
It's got to be the most electrifying round one series of any of the matchups, right? Like this is must-see TV, as must-see as a first round can be. You have two teams who, have gone all in, and either one of them, it's going to be a massive disappointment. It'll be
That's true.
A failure. I don't know how else to call it that. It sucks because the competition is so good, but it will be a failure for either one of these teams to not make it out of the first round.
It feels a little bit similar to 2015 in the first round, with the Clippers having to take on the San Antonio Spurs, the defending champs. They drew them at the very last day, or on the very last day of the season. And San Antonio, while I think it ended up being a 3-6 matchup, San Antonio was favored going into that series. And the Clippers pulled it out in 7 games, off a shot from CP3 on a bad hammy.
An insane end to the series.
Kawhi remembers.
What?
Kawhi remembers.
Yeah. Kawhi not playing tomorrow. He's on the injury report. He's out. We're gonna maybe get more into that later.
We can go ahead and just pencil him out against Houston as well, right?
You gotta assume.
I would think so. We were texting about it earlier. It's like, unless they needed that victory against Houston, they didn't have it wrapped up yet with the 4 spot, and Kawhi was feeling great. Both those things were happening.
Yeah.
I don't see him playing to end the season. It's just
so his first game back. And this is optimistic. Optimistically, his first game back is against the Mavs, having not played in 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly 3 weeks, 21 days. Yes. Yeah, that. How are we
good
feeling?
Stuff. Good stuff.
How are we feeling? We can talk about it. We're gonna talk about the fan poll that we put on Twitter that had a very level-headed response. As far as things you can put on Twitter and ask questions to get responses to. How are we feeling about the Kawhi thing? I know, again, and I wanna preface this by saying, if don't tweet at us individually or on the show asking for more information or being upset the team is not giving more information, we're not going to get it. We haven't gotten it the past 5 years.
If there's any scoop, it will go to a national reporter first, and then your beat players will find out about it.
And I get being frustrated by it, but we're not getting anything.
We'll take a nibble at the very end of the line.
Yeah, we'll aggregate the aggregators.
It's also something everyone knew going in when they signed Kawhi Leonard was going to be part of the equation.
Yeah,
Toronto didn't get it. San Antonio didn't get it. It's his own private way of handling his health. So I think it's a good trade-off overall. It can be a little frustrating around these times, but there's so many murky reports, by the way, throughout the league when it comes to injuries. It's not just Kawhi anymore, but that's the guy who's become, I guess, the poster child for this, or the example.
It's just the one that we see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, we have our own bias there, but everybody would like more clarity when it comes to injury reports. Every fan of every team.
Yeah, it's an exception to get a lot of information about.
I think Zach Lowe said on. I think that Zach Lowe said on his podcast that the Clippers have zero goodwill when it comes to news about Kawhi Leonard's knee. Whatever they're sharing, they've earned zero. They've earned zero goodwill. It could be fine. It could be they already know he's out for the season.
But that aside, how are we feeling just ability-wise, about the potential 21 days. It's a lot of rest in between games.
I
Rookie
honestly
forgot
am
how to
not
dribble.
worried about rust with Kawhi, even though I know he's a machine, a robot. You might have to worry about rust. But if he's healthy, I think he can be one shot hot. The first shot he hits, he's going to be fine. He's going to be locked in. I'm not that overly concerned about it as long as he's 100% ready to go. I think he'll fall right back into where he was playing. And he was playing at a very high level before this injury. He was moving so well. We were just talking about it. The last game he played in was that game in Charlotte. And the guy was blowing past Miles Bridges. So, yeah, it's concerning to me. I said earlier, I was talking with Justin Wilson at LA Clippers Film, I think it is, on X earlier today. He said, I'm concerned about Kawhi. And I once again brought up, and I've talked about it here too, that if he was fully healthy, if it was just load management, as some people have called it, saying, oh, I have a source, he's fine, they're just resting him before the playoffs and things like that. If it was just that, I'm pretty sure he plays against that Denver game a week ago. That was a big game.
That was a large
I don't think
game.
Kawhi rests that game if everything was fine. Now, it doesn't mean it's serious. They could just be overly cautious right now, which they'd be well within their right to be, with finally having this team for the first time in 3 years, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both together to start a playoff series. That's what we all want to see. But I'm not trying to be an alarmist or anything, but when Coach Lue last night, he was asked by Tomer Azarli, one of the first questions at the pregame press conference. Tomer said, is there any concern Kawhi Leonard's absence could bleed into the playoffs at all? Coach Lue said, no, not as of right now. And I think part of that, I don't know, I'm just trying to deduce here and interpret, but if it's inflammation, if it's swelling, then how will you know everything's fine until you get back to playing basketball in a 5-on-5 setting in a playoff series, by the way, where things are more intense and more taxing? Like, we're not going to know for sure maybe until he gets back on the court and he feels great after game one, right? I mean, that just makes sense to me. So anyone knowing or trying to act like, oh, everything's cool, everything's fine, it very well might be. I think that's the most likely scenario. Kawhi Leonard's going to be good to go game one, of course, but time will tell. So I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to at least bring up the fact that obviously he's been extremely injury prone, and for people being upset to talk about it or saying, oh, you're trying to cause a panic or something like that, it's like, I think I look at Kawhi every game to see how he's moving. I've been molded into this over the years because of PTSD and past injuries and a guy with chronic right knee issues. It's his right knee. People are coming at me and saying, well, Jamal Murray, he was out for 2 weeks, same thing. It said knee inflammation. He's back now. Looks great. It's like, well, first of all, it's a completely different player, completely different body. A guy who's 5 or 6 years younger, hasn't had the meniscus also, hasn't had the tendinopathy also, which was reported. And I'm pretty sure his inflammation was not on his surgically repaired ACL knee. So I don't think it's a clear parallel. I don't think you can ever just say, well, this guy had the same knee injury and he's back already. Right. You're really doing that with knee injuries? I don't know. We're all
I have
hoping
2
for the
knees,
best,
so I feel I could probably judge.
Yeah. Take my
I've got
knee.
2. What more qualifications do you need? We've got 2 knees.
Yeah, kind of like Adam. It kind of feels like we're just kind of like floating, right? Like we're, everything's probably fine. But again, because of how they handle the information, we're just kind of like, all right, we'll wait for the next update.
Well, everyone was asking, was there an MRI? Tomer Azarli reported that there was, and they didn't find anything significant. So that's obviously great news right there.
Yeah, that's good. Do we know if he's practicing? I know they get weird with practice.
What qualifies as significant?
I guess it goes back to the question of whether or not he would miss time in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, he was questionable for all of the playoffs in 21. So
you're feeling optimistic, is what it sounds like. Will,
this is the classic Updike optimism.
Oh no. Yeah, and he's already ruled out for tomorrow, and then we'll learn on Saturday if he's ruled out for Sunday's game, which again, if he's ruled out for Sunday's game, don't be surprised about that. If they win tomorrow, don't be surprised if we don't run the same crew they ran against the Suns last night.
Yeah.
If they win tomorrow.
Trying to read into whether or not Kawhi's on the injury report for these last two games and what conclusions you can draw from that. I don't think there's anything you can take away from that because of the opponents, because it looks like it's almost a foregone conclusion they're going to end up being the 4 seed. I wonder if Dallas, thinking the same thing, seeing the Clippers opponents, might start resting guys too, because they believe obviously the Clippers are going to, they could fall into a victory in these next 2 ball games. Houston, if they really go hard, that could be troublesome, a 12:30 start. But we saw Utah a week ago. They absolutely do not want to win ball games right now. Danny Ainge has made the call.
We might see a worse Utah team tomorrow than what we saw a week ago, which is pretty incredible to think about.
Yeah, maybe Sexton doesn't even play. I don't know.
He's not playing tonight. We took to Twitter to ask Clippers fans how they were feeling about this upcoming matchup, and we have some results right here. We said, Clippers, for those of you listening and not seeing this, we said, Clippers fans, how do you see Clippers versus Mavs round 3 going? The options were, I did not put a sweep on here. I apologize to some people. I put Clips in 5, Clips in 6, Clips in 7, or Mavs win the series. 51.2% of the 340 votes, or let's call it
damn.
Let's call it 340,000. 51% picked Clips in 6 over the Mavs, which I feel like is a pretty rational take for this scenario. Obviously, the least picked was Mavs win series. And then the second least chosen was Clippers in 7, which I did think was kind of surprising, but it's not by much. But I think Clips in 6 is a fairly level-headed take right now, because that's kind of how I'm feeling. It's got to be 6 or 7 is what it feels like.
When I posted the grimacing emoji face a couple of weeks ago when the Mavericks were in the 5 spot and jumped over the Pelicans for the first time, and you could see the upcoming inevitable series between the Clippers and Dallas Mavericks, the first thing I thought was Clips and 6. Clips and 6. And it's no disrespect. This is a series where there's high variance when it comes to outcomes. I could see the Clippers winning faster than 6 games. I could see the Dallas Mavericks winning a series in 6, winning a series in 7. There are so many different places you could land with prognosticating this series. A lot of it obviously comes down to Kawhi and his health. If he's fully healthy and the Clippers play to their potential and the Dallas Mavericks play to their potential, I would say the Clippers can win in 6 or 7. I think they are just the better team with the higher ceiling if both teams bring their A game. If the Clippers, though, slip up, and a couple of guys, if James Harden has a tough series, or if Paul George has a tough series, or if Kawhi misses a game, their margin for error isn't wide enough where you can count on still taking down the Dallas Mavericks now with Luka next to Kyrie with the front court that they've assembled.
Yeah, the margin for error is something. Yeah, that is something rough to try and think about. Will, are you on Clips in 6? Did you vote in this poll? I don't see your I voted sticker, which is fair.
I did not. I leave the fans poll to you.
It's beneath.
I don't know. 6 feels maybe optimistic to me. I just, unless the Clippers are firing on a level that we haven't seen them in about half the season, I just don't see this going shorter than 7.
I mean, incredibly reasonable. Again, another fair take with the half of the basketball we've seen.
I think I just heard Clips in 9.
Yeah, it is. We are in the ultimate. Oh no. We are in the ultimate battle. This is horrible.
Welcome back in Clips and Dip, guys. Episodes.
We're going to talk about some stats in a sec. We are in the ultimate battle.
I didn't realize we could do this. This is fun. Sorry, Chuck, continue.
Oh, sure. No, I love this version a lot more, actually.
The
We're in the
ultimate
ultimate
way to rattle all of us.
Yeah, of amongst the screen sharing. Of like yes, the Clippers are 7-2 in their last 9. It's a very good win-loss record. The Mavs have been playing an incredible level of basketball. We're in this the flip the switch versus the coming in hot in the playoffs battle is at its peak right now between these two teams, which is very interesting to me as someone who isn't the biggest fan of the flip the switch method. Not to say the Clippers haven't had some good process, but the level of process that the Mavs have been on since about a month ago, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is pretty crazy. Before we get into the stats real quick, we got to take an audio break for the podcast edition. There might be some loud ads. We're talking more Mavs stats coming up in 3, 2, 1.
All right. All right. It's inevitable. Clippers are taking on the Mavs in the first round. We're going to dig a little bit into this. Charles, tell us a little bit about how these two teams have been performing since the All-Star break. I have a feeling I already know, but why don't you go ahead and lay it on us?
I actually already know how they're performing.
I mean, I think you could make a guess.
Well, the Clippers, sure. The Clippers are 15-12 since the All-Star break. The Mavs are 19-5. They've made some adjustments there. Mavs are scoring at 118 points per game. Clippers are at 111. Mavs are 8th in pace. Clippers are 22nd in pace, which is interesting when it comes to playoff basketball stuff because that pace slows down. And I think that's going to benefit the Clippers a little bit. 118 offensive rating for the Mavs, 115 offensive rating for the Clippers. Not super far there. 111 defensive rating for the Mavs, 115 for the Clippers. So the Mavs have been plus 6.6 in net rating, and the Clippers have been minus 0.1 in net rating since the All-Star break. So, yeah, I don't know. Adam, you were going to say something before we kind of started this, but the defense is just – that's what pops into your head, right? If you're one of these people who's like, oh, the Mavs, their defense is bad. You're like, well, it hasn't been. It has not been bad.
That's been the misconception about this team. We've been talking about it. We've been trying to prep everyone for this, but the dirty little secret about the Dallas Mavericks is they've been the best defense of their last 18 games in the league. Now, some of that they've had an easier schedule, but they've also had great wins against the Denver Nuggets. They won both those games in Sacramento. I know the Kings have been down a little bit and they're missing some players, but they've had good wins. And if you want to go back further, their last 35 games, they're 8th defensively. So almost half the season, they have been a top 10 defense now. It's real. And they must be doing it collectively because when people make the argument of, well, Luka and Kyrie are going to have to guard on the other end, I think teams during the regular season also have noted that, and yet they're still the 8th best defense over their last 35 games. So just to say, I know the playoffs are different, the way you scheme, the way you attack mismatches, but it's pretty obvious going into a ball game any night that Luka Doncic isn't the greatest defender. He's big. He has some of that James Harden post defense, and he's been giving a better effort defensively, I think, all throughout this season. But that's not a brain hatch to know that if you go after Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, even in a regular season game, that has to be part of your game plan, and it hasn't been working for teams. Not to the extent you would expect, that's for sure.
Yeah, they got the bigger wings now. It's different.
Yeah, with PJ Washington, I'm guessing he's going to be on Kawhi. Derek Jones Jr. is going to start on PG-13. And yes, they're going to run screens to try to get switches, to try to get matched up with Kyrie and Luka. And that is the formula for success. Wear them out on the defensive end. I don't think the Clippers did enough of that, though, the first 2 times over in 20 and 21 against Luka, honestly. It's not always that easy either. But Kyrie is undersized. However, there have been times in his career where he's played stellar defense. I remember game 1 against Steph Curry in 2015, where he was playing great defense in the NBA Finals. He's just undersized, but he has quick hands, high basketball IQ. I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people do when it comes to just hunting their superstars and putting them on an island with Kawhi and Paul George. like seemingly on paper it would play out to be.
Well, like the thing is, even with a bad coach, which the Mavs have, you like your entire defense, like it's predicated on the idea that teams are going to try to attack one of your two like backcourt stars, right? So like you develop a system that's going to mitigate some of that. And then the other thing about this Mavs defense that I think, like, again, not to discredit it because Adam is right, they've shown us a lot more. We've seen a lot more of who they are versus this like being a fluke or something. But like, let's not deny that a huge thing has just been Luka actually running back in transition instead of arguing with refs when he doesn't get a call in almost every play ending in like a 5-on-4 on the other end.
He's trying. Yeah, that's his version of trying, is cutting out the riffraff. Jokic had to do it. Jokic was a weird hothead when he had to calm that down. Yeah, I do like.
Never like Luka though. This is like, dude.
No. Yeah, that's fair.
The other thing with the Mavericks is their top 3 net rating in the clutch. They're so good at executing late in ball games,
which they always which they have been year over year. Which
they're 23-9.
I don't know.
They played in a lot of close games. I don't know if that makes them battle tested or very vulnerable, but 23-9 in the last 5 minutes of games within 5 points this season. And it's kind of predictable when you look at Luka Doncic, when you look at Kyrie Irving. The other, what I think is going to end up being a false narrative in this series that's going to fall by the wayside point has been to downplay how good this Dallas Mavericks team has been, is people saying, well, Kyrie Irving, his last couple of playoff series, 2022 and 2019, he wasn't very good. At least he petered out at the end. Teams were able to slow him down. I don't want to rely on that happening again. I just don't.
Like a guy slowing down. Like, let's stop him.
I just mean him having off shooting nights, a player who has been very clutch and has played in a ton of big games next to LeBron James for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know if you can rely on him having another bad playoff series. I just don't. He now has another LeBron James next to him in Luka Doncic. The pressure isn't on him like it was in Boston. You can say he had KD next to him in Brooklyn. They had a ton of injuries.
You got to throw the net stuff out. I truly feel like all the net stuff. Yeah, I mean, you just what do you even take from any?
They had 20 games together, less than 20 games with him, KD, and James Harden. So I don't know. I think people are vastly underestimating this Dallas Mavericks team, but hope I'm wrong. Clips and 6.
Clippers can still win, even if you're vastly underestimating. It's just going to be harder for the Clips to win, right? Like it does match up. We do have the bigger wings. We do have some more physical defenders to make, like you said, Luka work a little bit harder because he's going to score. You just got to make him work hard to do it. Also, one thing.
Has anyone even considered that?
Don't go on the Clippers subreddit.
Series over.
There was another thing, too, with Kyrie especially, is the vibes are good. Kyrie is very much someone who feeds off of good and bad vibes. And right now, the vibes with him and Luka, they're having fun in the layup lines. Like, they're goofing on each other. I don't like seeing that as a Clippers fan because Kyrie is very, again, there's no else way to say he's very good.
No, he's not having fun. Him.
Well, it's a good point, Chuck, because they took the Clippers to 7 with Kristaps apparently feeling like he was completely left out, a locker room that maybe wasn't completely connected. They weren't even totally gelling or meshing and having these good vibes. And Luka still was able to take them to 7 games. And really, for everyone being overly confident against the Dallas Mavericks, let's not forget they were down 0-2. And not only were they down 0-2, they had home court advantage. And not only that, they were down 30-11 in Dallas in game 3 before they turned it all around. And they figured it out, and they had that Clippers magic, the comeback Clippers magic. Kawhi led them, said, come with me if you want to live. And it was incredible. It was such a close series, and this Mavs team on paper is better. And what I worry about with the Clippers is they can't play small, I think, as well as they could then. They don't have Marcus, who was very good in 2021. They obviously don't have Nicholas Batum, who was amazing. And if Ivica Zubac isn't able to stay on the court, that's to me how this series could unravel for the Clippers. They need Ivica Zubac to be playable for 30, 35 plus minutes, 35 plus, I would say, per night to try to offset the rim runners and the rollers that the Dallas Mavericks have. And that means Luka Doncic is going to be looking for him and trying to pull him away from the basket and try to pull him out on the perimeter where Luka is the most confident player ever. If he isn't already, when he sees Ivica Zubac, for whatever reason, he never misses. We've seen it time and time again. And people were telling me on Twitter, oh, Big Zoo's going to have a big series and all this stuff. I'm saying, I hope so, because if he doesn't, I don't see a path to victory in this series. Honestly, it's that critical for this Clippers team because they don't have the switchability like they did in 2021 or 2020. They don't have this versatile wing stop lineup anymore. They don't, unless
Russ at the 5, buddy.
I think that might happen.
Yeah.
I think it's a good matchup for Russ in this series, Dallas, as opposed to the Pels. But
need his size at the point, right? In terms of point of attack stuff. Like he's long, he knows how to get in passing lanes. Like that disruption is going to be needed as a fresh guy off the bench.
For a team that has issues with boards and is small really out of the gates because they had PG and Kawhi move up positions this season. If Ivica Zubac can't stay on the floor, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Daniel Radcliffe, these guys are going to feast. Daniel Gafford, I looked it up earlier. He has had 4 games of 5 blocks or more since he came to Dallas. I mentioned it on the last show, but I mentioned that weird Wilt Chamberlain field goal made streak. Yeah. He made 33 straight field goals over the span of I don't know how many games that was, but yes, only second to Wilt Chamberlain, who made 35 straight at one point. That's incredible.
What is funny is they do get the week off, right? Like there's always a discussion when a team is super hot going into the playoffs of any sport. They're like, oh, is this week off is this gonna knock out their rhythm? Is this gonna make them like forget how good they were? I don't know if it does, because I think if you're looking back at when you last played and it was the best basketball of your life, you're probably like, great, let's try to get that going again. So yeah, I mean, major themes, Zoo in the point of attack whenever that gets happened, and then like the calculated doubling, right? Like we saw it against the Pels in that game where we beat the Pels in New Orleans, where they did those like the like very calculated doubles on Ingram. And I hope we don't do the over double on Kyrie, because that, as we all know, when he gets into like the real meaty triple doubles, that's when things go bad.
Luka?
Yes.
You have to make him be one or the other. He can't be a guy who's getting 35 plus points and 12 to 15 assists. That's when you're in trouble. That's what happened the first couple of games when the Clippers got down. Now, part of it was just outlier shooting when the Mavericks were at like 60% from 3 those first 2 games. It was crazy. And the numbers finally went the Clippers' way. That regression to the mean happened in 2021. But if you double Luka now and throw those blitzes his way, he has a safety valve in Kyrie Irving to get it to. It's different. Part of me wonders. I'm trying to look for positives here because this matchup with Luka Doncic is just always so scary.
Terrence Mann's playing some of the best basketball of his career right now.
Amir Coffey does help with. I mean, doesn't have the size, obviously, of a Morris or a Batum, but he does help with some like defensive switchability.
Russ is motivated. He's playing well.
I almost wonder if it's a good thing for the Clippers that Kyrie Irving is another option, another high usage player to have the ball in his hands just to get it away from Luka for some time. Is that a crazy thought? Like it's almost scarier when Luka's going to have it 90% of the time instead of 70% of the time now.
I can see that. Kyrie is also very good at being second fiddle, though.
He is.
He is okay with it.
I will say I'd rather play Luka next to Kyrie right now than Luka next to Jalen Brunson right now.
That's fair.
Yeah, hey, I'll drink to that. That's super fair. Yeah, and again, this is where also we are speaking as assuming Kawhi is playing every game of this series, which is kind of a looming thing to think about. As you know, we're going to do a more in-depth preview for Game 1, obviously next week. But right now, we're assuming he's playing Game 1, and hopefully he continues. Like Adam, you said, like he makes his first one and then he's good to go. And we see it click immediately. So hopefully that happens.
The way PG has looked recently gives me a little bit more confidence too, because he really struggled in that Mavs series, and I don't think that is thought about enough. I mean, in the 21 one, he was able to turn it around. He had a couple of really, really solid games, but the first time they played, it was not great. And to the start of that series, in 21, he did not have a great start either.
Another thing. Oh, go ahead, Adam.
No, that's a great point. I want to say he shot like 34% in the 2020 series in the bubble.
Yeah.
Obviously, he just wasn't right. But like Will said, he turned it around in 2021. He got his sea legs underneath him as that series went along. Yeah, I'm looking at this. He ended up shooting, it was 36% in that series in 2020. But in 2021 against Dallas, he shot 46%, still just 30% from the outside. So he wasn't great, but we know he got better as the Utah Jazz series came. And then when he was solo against Phoenix, he had some great games.
Yeah, and he's been getting kind of the number one alpha treatment, right? Since Kawhi's been out, he's been getting that feeling back, to really take charge, which we need him to do in the playoffs. Another one crazy thing about this series, first Clippers Mavs series in the 2-3 era with full stadiums. There were not full fans in the last one, and there definitely weren't full fans in the one before that. So we're going to see I'm so excited to see what 207 does. I mean, the whole stadium's going to be crazy at Crypto for this series, but I'm excited for Clippers fans, to be in that building, making it absolutely insane, which is going to be awesome.
I think it was, and the Clippers, they were on the wrong end of that, I believe, in 2021, because it was full, I believe, in Texas. In Dallas, it wasn't full here. So when Game 3 was going on and they were up 30-11 on the Clippers, when their backs were fully against the wall, staring at going down 0-3, the crowd was absolutely on top of them, which made it even more impressive for the Clippers to come back. And the Game 6 performance with the 45 spot by Kawhi Leonard, which is an all-time playoff performance in NBA history to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unreal.
Yeah, is there anything, I don't know. It's going to be very difficult. I don't want people to think that we're saying that the Clippers are going to lose. It's just going to be if you think this is something other than an incredibly difficult series, this is not the podcast for you. I don't know what to tell you. Because the Clippers can win. They should win, but it's going to be a war. Even if you thought the rosters were bad last time for the Mavs, like it was still a war, right? Like it's not like, and the Clippers they figured out how to use their pieces well, right? Ty Lue's been pulling the right strings for the most part recently. Russ playing well. Everyone's citing this. Oh, the Clippers are 7-2 since he's come back from his injury. I don't think it's that deep, but he has been playing very well.
Don't think he was very good against Philly or Orlando in both those games, guys. I'm not sure if that was about Russ.
Yeah.
Now, the last 3 or 4 games, definitely. Sure. Obviously, the game in Phoenix where he was shot out of a cannon and almost had a triple-double in the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. And I do like Russ matchup-wise in this series. I think he can guard Kyrie and Luka. I think that's somebody who can hound them. Somebody give them a Kevin Durant jersey, because when Russell Westbrook is going up against KD, like there is a different level to him.
Yeah,
like, you can tell the vendetta is real.
Yeah,
he's going over screens every time. He's fighting through. Like, oh my goodness.
Oh man, and we haven't seen Russ in Dallas in a playoff series.
Yeah,
they are going to hate him, the fans, because it's just that kind of place, right? Like they don't like opposing players like that, and he is gonna thrive in that environment.
And they played a ton. I want to say they matched up at some point in the playoffs when he and KD were together in a round. But obviously, They're familiar with Russ's game.
A stat that Law Murray's been tweeting out as it's happened. The Clippers are 10-0 when one of Kawhi, Paul George, Harden, or Mann get 10-plus rebounds.
11 now.
11-0 this season. Let's watch those rebound numbers go up because I think Kawhi and PG both, it's like 2.5 more per game in the playoffs. Points obviously goes up like 5 or 6 per game for those guys. So keep an eye on the rebounds. You know, when we were talking about going small, like that's the big issue with going small is giving up extra possessions and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see Paul George's rebounding continue to be on the upswing too. Because
what I worry about, and it goes back to Ivica Zubac and how important it is for him to play well and for the Clippers to stay believing in him, because you're going to need him to win this series, is obviously Coach Lou's more comfortable going small often. We just saw it in that third quarter when the Clippers were up 37 on the Phoenix Suns on Tuesday night, and Phoenix went small. And instead of punishing them and feeding Ivica Zubac, who was being guarded at times by Eric Gordon down low, they eventually gave in as Phoenix was making a run, and the Clippers matched them, and they went small themselves. I would love to see Ivica Zubac impose his will and secure his spot on the floor.
he was
Just make
closing earlier
yourself
in the
so
year.
invaluable that they can't take you off the floor in this series against the Dallas Mavericks, because he will have the size advantage against their bigs. They're going to have the quickness. They're going to have the rim running, the athleticism, and that's part of the reason they need a big Zoo out there. But I don't know if the game plan is going to be, okay, if Luka's hunting that matchup, we're not switching on those anymore and having Big Zoo go on him. He either takes that shot or you fight through the screen. And that's where it has to be, because if he's one-on-one, Luka versus Visa Zubats, it's barbecue chicken, as Shaq would say. It has been. I don't know what I remember in the 2021 series. I think I pulled the numbers, the matchup data, when it was Luka taking a shot with Ivica Zubac on him, and I want to say it was like 75% field goal percentage stuff. It was insane. And even when we're talking about good defense too, with his hand up.
Right. You just lure him in. You just let him continue to shoot over Zoo. Doesn't have any assists. He's just got to do high arcing shots. He's just got to do high arcing shots. You tire him out.
Well, that was part of how they won that series too. So much was on Luka's plate. He shot under 30%, I believe, in fourth quarters in that 2021 series. He gassed himself out. I don't know if we can rely on that though now, because Kyrie Irving's going to take some of the offensive scoring load off his plate now.
Damn.
It's crazy. This series.
We got Norm. We got 21 Norm now. He's going to be hyped up. He's been on a playoff. He's been in playoff wars with Kawhi. That's nice to have. This is going to, I'm in the coach battle, as Will has already talked about, the Mavs coach. I'm interested to see what Ty Lue, who's already been preparing for the Mavs per him. I'm excited what he has cooked up.
That's a good point too, though, Chuck. Like, people trying to compare those series, they had a different coach. They had Rick Carlisle. They have Jason Kidd now. I know Will doesn't think he's a good coach, apparently.
He sucks. Will and I are on the team. He's not a good coach.
Inconclusive at this point. If they win this first round series,
sure. Hey, I don't know.
Yeah, it was all Jason Kidd and not like historically laid down.
He's gonna have to do something clever to beat this Clippers team in Ty Lue, right? I mean,
he will. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have to match up against Ty Lue in a chess match in a 7-game series. I think it's him and Spo.
With no shorts for one quarter.
What the hell do we do? He's got no shorts on. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one in the way that, like, trying to dispose of a wasp's nest is fun, if that makes sense. Very difficult strategy-wise, but once you're done, it feels great. You move on to the next thing.
Denver.
Yeah, the next thing's Denver, a much larger wasp nest with the best wasp in the planet inside of it. Yeah, let us know on Twitter what you think is going to happen over at Clippers Pod, or you can find Adam at follow Adam May on x.com, formerly twitter.com.
I was chatting it up on X.
Oh, don't chat it up too hard. There's still like a week and a half until the first playoff game, which also is probably going to be in the afternoon. Sorry to burst everyone's bubble, but everyone's saying that Clippers Mavs game 1 is going to be like a 12 game or something like that on Saturday.
There were some people prematurely celebrating Sunday's game like the last of the 12:30
no
start.
way. Yeah, not even close. Hell, we might even.
I hope it's an evening game. I feel like I said, I do feel like it's like the premier. It's like the premier round 1 matchup.
It should be marquee. Luke could be the face of the league when LeBron retires.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming up, we're going to talk just the final regular season weekend at crypto that's coming up. There's a Steve Ballmer giveaway on Sunday for a bobblehead, which is pretty funny. Yeah, we're talking that. There's going to be some ads that might be loud for you listening to this. We thank everyone for listening. So turn that down. Ads coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in. It's Clips and Dip, Season 2, Episode 67. I'm Adam Moslin. We got Big Chuck Mockler and Will Updike here. If you missed it, last night we did a little Clips and Double Dip on Clippers Talk. I believe this week's been like a whirlwind for me. Chuck, you were on with me last night?
No, Will right? was. I was on with you
Will last
before.
night. I guess I'm thinking because the Clippers lost that it must have been Charles on, but it was Will powering through that Clippers loss last night with Bones Highland, by the way, having a career high 37 points. Do think we should acknowledge that. Bones with the green light is dangerous out there.
Oh, yeah.
I sure hope he earned himself a chance in the playoffs after that. He just gives you a different look. But yes, it was Will. If you want to check that out, that section of the podcast from Clippers Talk was also uploaded on the Clips and Dip pod. We're at Clippers Pod on X. We're at Clippers Podcast on YouTube. Chuck, what do we got here?
Nailed it. What are we looking for in these last 2 games? Harden's questionable. I'm fine if he doesn't play. Really, all that I want to see is maybe Russ get his 200th triple-double. That's the only meaningful thing that can happen in these last 2 games, right?
He just got his first as a Clipper, right, in that Phoenix Suns game on Tuesday in Phoenix?
Yeah.
Which was kind of surprising, right? His first as a Clipper, not this season, but his first overall as a Clipper, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And he was unbelievable. And that, guys, that 35-4 start, we're never going to see anything like that. I don't mean watching the Clippers. I mean watching any NBA game. You will never see that again. What was it, 56-14 at one point? You will never see that again. The only game I could think of, because sadly, I'm from Sacramento, and the Sacramento Kings in the 80s. I think this is the record. They were down to the Showtime Lakers in 1987 after the first quarter, 40-4. The Kings.
Jesus Christ.
that was the only game that came to mind watching that Clippers Phoenix Suns game.
No, Will and I were dumbfounded watching that game. It was like, it made no sense. It
was wild.
We're
just used to that happening to us, I feel like.
Yeah.
it was kind of nice to be on the other side of it.
Instead of Suns in 4, Suns got 4 and they're down 35-4. Like, it was so brutal. They were booing. Oh, they don't sit until they score their first point, and it took like 4 minutes. Yeah, unbelievable.
There's good stuff if you hate the Suns and the city of Phoenix, which I will go on record saying I hate both. Who do we think? So it's the Russ's 200th triple-double. And you are right, Adam. He's only had 1 as a Clipper. Let him get it against the Jazz tomorrow, and then let's see what Kobe Brown and Brandon Boston can do.
Kobe Brown, some decent play in that last Suns game too.
Not bad. Something to it.
That feed from Bones Highland for the 2-handed jam from Kobe Brown was pretty impressive. That was fun.
Winning basketball plays. He makes winning
defensively, I mean,
plays.
He was getting a bunch of deflections. He was getting his hands in there. He looked pretty good.
Looked pretty solid.
That last game against the Jazz last Friday, I'm checking to see because the Clippers did start that one, yes, very fast as well. They were up 41-16. That needs to happen tomorrow night. Leave no doubt. Do not let the Jazz think they have a chance, because even if there's systemic tanking going on, and I don't know if that's true or not, I just know they've lost a lot of games recently.
Despicable. Systemic tanking. You've been charged
something
with
the NBA is
systemic
trying
tanking.
to do away with. But the players out there still want to have good game tape to give to their agent to show to prospective teams. So guys are going to play hard. Whether or not the most talented players are available for the Jazz tomorrow night is a different story.
Law Murray had a really funny tweet. It said the LA Clippers will not have Kawhi Leonard guard Bryce Sensabaugh for tomorrow's game versus Utah Jazz. They may have James Harden bring the ball up against Keontae George as he is questionable. Paul George will be available to possibly shoot against Taylor Hendricks.
That's pretty good.
That's what we're getting into tomorrow.
That's
who do we think addresses the crowd on Sunday for the final regular season game at Crypto?
Ooh, this is good. This is good right
Probably
here.
Paul George, right?
Yeah, either PG or Russ. They will eat it up if it's Russell Westbrook. Section 207.
Oh, that's true for sure.
I hope they make Zoo do it.
Terrence, I feel like Terrence would be kind of interesting.
He has been their kind of de facto press guy too. He's in the ads for the wall and that stuff. He's kind of been there because Kawhi's not going to do it.
Don't
like
sleep on the tuck wagon showing up.
He's just.
Are you calling PJ Tucker?
You don't know
Terrence
about the
just
tuck
interesting
wagon?
because he's like the home. He's like a homegrown talent, not from Los Angeles, obviously, but I mean, like, he's one of the players that the Clippers have actually developed. Yeah.
Yeah, one
the
of
few, the proud.
One. Yeah, the one.
Well, beer coffee.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Amir. Let's go real quick though. You're calling PJ Tucker the tuck wagon, Adam?
You never heard that?
I have not. I've not heard the tuck.
I don't know how far it goes back. You got to hitch yourself to the tuck wagon. Let him take you home, baby. I don't know if it's from his stops in Houston or Toronto or recent stops in Miami or Milwaukee or Philadelphia, but somewhere along the way, I think it's on his Basketball Reference.
I'm on it right now. It's on there. It's his only nickname.
What's up?
Hey, egg on my face, I guess, for not knowing the tuck wagon.
My best friend growing up was named Mike Tucker. We used to call him Mother Tucker. I love that for a Tucker.
I would not call PJ Tucker that.
I wouldn't either.
Okay, and I think we need to give out a keyword. Someone on our YouTube commented that they thought they got all three, which I'm gonna. Sorry, J Bose, you did not get it. The first one is positivity, correct? But Eclipse is not the second one, and Inevitable is not the third one because we haven't even given you.
Although, I mean, honestly, for us not giving the words, I feel like that was very well done, J Bose.
Incredible, J Bose. If you see us in public at the game or wherever, shout something, and I'll buy you a beer for or something like that, or we'll. I don't know, give you whatever's in my right pocket.
That's like there was this guy on Survivor that used to, without any hint, just go searching for the idol throughout the island, and he would end up finding them somehow. Like he's just digging everywhere. He had this knack for it.
Okay, so the first one, though, is positivity. That is correct. If you are listening or watching, the first keyword is positivity. Adam, what is the second keyword to win the James Harden and Comb bobblehead?
I don't know if we should regave the first one, make him go back and listen, but I believe it is. Chuck, it really should be you giving this out. The second keyword, process. Get that right? Process.
Exactly
baby.
what it is.
Process.
So, positivity and process. The third one, which we know and will give out on the double dip tomorrow, is very funny. Will, are you doing the double dip or am I doing the double dip?
I think it's you, Big Dog.
Your turn.
All right. There was talk of the way that Will delivers this particular keyword is very funny. So,
Will, you might have to come on.
I will try my best.
I'll interview Chuck, but Will come on just for one word.
Yeah, just pass the phone to me.
That'll be great. We'll probably be hanging out. So that sounds perfect, actually. We'll go, what is the third keyword? And I'll pass it. And I'll go, Mr. Updike, your call. And Will then say the keyword. So we have positivity and process. That's it. We're gonna definitely remember to give out the third one on the double dip.
I blame myself. It's my bad, guys. Definitely dropped the ball.
No,
on this
it's
one.
it's all good.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Big
totally
ups to
forgot.
Jagos though. I love you putting the pieces together and figuring out on your own.
Well, I was kind of wondering if Chuck was going with a different way about this game, where you would have to guess based upon themes we were throwing at you in episodes, which isn't a terrible way to go. It could take longer to win the prize, but that's okay if you're watching more of our shows.
I mean, half our listeners, when they watch our show, read Scientific American. We know that for a fact. We have documentation that that's true. We have a very smart audience. If you listen to the show, you're very smart. Half of you. The other half, you're not reading Scientific American. I don't know. I think.
How about all the Mavericks fans watching now?
So that is a very real thing. That we should address that. There's going to be a bunch of Mavs fans watching these videos. When Will and I hosted Locked On Clippers, our most listened to episodes, I believe the top 2 most popular episodes we ever did were the 2 times that we did a post game after the Clippers were down 0-2 to the Mavs, because Mavs fans engage with podcasts and things like that. It's a very deep YouTube fan base, I feel like. The Raccoon Squad, I think, is what it's called over on the Locked On Mavs. So yeah, engage healthily would be my advice for Clips and Mavs fans. Will, do you have anything to say to the Mavericks fans? We love Nick Angstadt. We don't mean anything malicious. I like Dallas more than Phoenix as a city.
Who are your guys' favorite Dallas Mavericks players of the past? Nobody that's going to be seen in this series.
There's Dirk.
Just
That's
a big
it.
German.
I don't pine for years past, man.
I'm going with Jim Jackson, but whatever.
Okay.
Your first opponent in NBA Jam, he and Jamal Mashburn.
That's pretty sick. Will, do you have anything to say to the Mavs fans who are going to be watching?
Hey, let's have a good time.
It's going to be so toxic.
It's going to be horribly toxic. Try and not engage with the toxicity. To the rational fans of Mavs country, welcome. We try and not be too reactionary, but I don't know. If the Clippers win by 40 at some point, there might be some wild stuff talked about. Will, if Mavs fans wanted to tell their grandpappy where to listen to our show so they could get more intel on the Clippers, where could they do that?
You can check us out over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can leave a rating and review over on those 2 platforms. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts. Best way to view this show, though, got to be honest with you, it's over on youtube.com @Clippers Podcast. Easy enough to remember, even for an idiot Mavs fan like yourself. Anyways, thanks so much for rocking with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh no. All right. Flip-flopping that, Adam. One positive thing before we get out of here, as we do on every show.
As much as I have praised the Dallas Mavericks for the run that they have been on and what a difficult series it could be, as I try to ingratiate myself with Dallas Mavericks fans, I still got Clips in 6, baby.
It's Clips in 6. It's Clips in 6. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll have the double dip with the final keyword tomorrow on AM 570, and then maybe a podcast on Saturday or maybe Sunday. We're trying to figure it out. Thank you for hanging out, and as always, let's go Clips.